Namaskaram, Bhagavad Gita, 8th chapter, 6th sloka. So in this sloka, Bhagavan explains the answer. The Arjuna asked 7 questions. The 7th question was about how people remember Bhagavan at the time of death. Bhagavan is answering now. So he started answering that question right from 5th question onwards. The 6th question he continues. So in this sloka, Bhagavan says, he explains how to remember him at the time of death. So he says, remembering whatsoever thought one abandons the body at the end, to that alone he goes. O Arjuna, ever dwelling in the thought thereof. So this sloka explains what should we do, how to remember Bhagavan at the time of death. And Bhagavan gives answer for all 3 types of devotees. He says how to remember Bhagavan by Aishwaryarti, by Kaivalyarti, and by Bhagavallaparti. So, in this sloka, we find the Lord propounds a profound spiritual path, spiritual truth. So the last thoughts of an individual decides his future birth, and the strongest will be his last. And when we say thoughts, the thoughts grow strong by repetition. If you think of anything, for example, if it is for Kaivalyarti, he thinks of, I should not get any more degam, body. So without body, I should be in a state of Atma and enjoy. I should not have any more birth. I should not have sickness. So he wants that. He aspires for that. So that thought comes to his mind very frequently. Because of the repetition, if that thought becomes very strong. So that idea which is consistently held in his mind will be the strongest, because he is thinking of it very, very often. So that will become the strongest thought. And man's bondage depends on the psychological principle. Those who aspire for prosperity, that is Aishwaryarti. So they think of getting wealth. So how to get wealth? I should get this, I should get this. So that thought becomes very strong. So he likes to attain wealth. So whatever the devotee aspire to attain, that becomes strong in his mind. So, but Bhagavan accepts all these devotees. So what does Bhagavan say? If he is a Aishwaryarti, let him connect Bhagavan with the wealth and think of him, so that in the next life he will have birth. So he will be born again to attain the wealth. He will get it. Bhagavan grants him. Bhagavan makes his wish true. So that because he thinks of Bhagavan at the time of death. So Bhagavan says, Aishwaryati will remember me with the wealth, because he wants, and he is praying God to get that wealth. So at the time of death he is thanking God for his own fruit of action. It will be sanctioned because he thinks that Aishwaryati thinks of Bhagavan at the time of death. And Kaivalyarti, one who does not want birth, and he wants to get rid of this death, then sickness, and he connects Bhagavan with that, and he thinks of Bhagavan at that time, and he gets that. So there is no more birth for him. And he will be in the state of Atma only. Because he wants that. And he is thinking of Bhagavan with that only. So he gets that. So there is no more birth for him. So this is what Bhagavan says. Whatever the result, for whichever purpose they are thinking of me, I will grant them because they are thinking of me at the last moment. But how is it possible for them to think of him at the last moment? That has been there in their mind. So this is a general question we all get. If I meet with an accident, or if my brain does not work at that time, then what will happen? How will I think? But Bhagavan says, it is not that only at the time of death you should think. It should be there. It should be cultivated. Thinking of God, the thoughts of God should be within us right from childhood. Because anything we achieve, it is out of practice, effort and practice. Even whether it is a game. So if you are participating in a competition, we have to practice. Only then we can become good at that, expert in that. So this is similarly, you have the thoughts of, how do you get the thoughts of Bhagavan? Always, it should be there right from the young days. That is why we should teach children to say sloka or whatever you get. Before we start, pray to Bhagavan. And after the whatever we do, let us thank God. So what happens? We will have the thoughts of Bhagavan only coming frequently in our mind. So that consciously we are doing, so that enters the conscious mind, and because of the thoughts going on there, so that get deposited in the subconscious mind. So there is no question whether I will be remembering God at the time of death, because Arjuna asked that question to Bhagavan. So Bhagavan answers this. No, we will not forget, because it is there within us, it is there in our mind, it is going on there. Because we have been in thoughts of Bhagavan always. So it is there. So we let us not think that if I am in coma or if I meet with an accident, what will happen? Will I be in a position to think of God? Yes, we will be. Because we have been thinking of God for everything right from the young days. So what happens? The thoughts are going on always in subconscious, subconscious. So from subconscious into conscious mind it travels. So you are in thoughts of Bhagavan. So this has to be practiced. So it is not that only at the time of death if you remember God will it happen. No. It should be there. So how will you remember the Bhagavan at the time of death? By practice. So this is what Bhagavan says. Even if it is Aishwaryati, let him think of me connected to wealth. If it is Kaivalyarti, let him think of me connected to no degam. And if it Bhagavad Parthi, let him think of my divine qualities, the Kalyana Guna. If he thinks of his Kalyana Gunam like Saul, his compassion and his Karunyam, his giving qualities, then he attains Bhagavan. So this is what Bhagavan says here. So there is no more birth for him. He will be with the Bhagavan and doing service to him always. So now we find Arjuna's question is answered by Bhagavan here. If we take the story of Jataparata, in Bhagavata Purana we come across these characters. So Jataparata, he was a king of Bharata. His name was Bharata. And he became a saint. So he gave up his possession to his son and he went to the forest. He decided to lead a saintly life. But what happened? He was attracted towards a baby deer, because the baby deer was about to fall into the river, and he watched that, he observed that, and he rushed to the spot and he brought it, and the baby deer lost his mother. So Bharata, he started keeping the deer with him and started looking after him, and he developed attachment to it also. And one day this deer gone out So you could not see him anymore. So he was in thought of the deer. So even at the last moment, he was thinking of only deer. So what happened? He was deviated from his meditation. The thoughts of God gone, wiped up from his mind. So his thoughts were only in deer. So in the next birth, he was born as a deer. So when this sloka is explained, the scholars say, when we think of Bhagavan at the time of the Bhagavalla Parthi, it is not that we become Bhagavan. So whatever you think, you will become that. It is not so. You will not become Bhagavan, but will get the qualities of Bhagavan. That is what the scholars say that. So you get the divine quality. Bhagavan has got so many qualities, and some of the qualities we get. So we will not become Bhagavan. We will get a godlike nature. So here he was born as a deer, not the same deer. He was born as some other deer. So because he was in thoughts of deer, so he was born as deer in the next birth. Then King Puranjana. What happened? He was in thoughts of his wife for the last moment. So he was born as a daughter of King Vidarbha in his next birth. And there was a sannyasi these are all different characters and different incidents. And there was a sannyasi of Mithila. And he asked a cobbler to make sandals for him. And he didn't pay. He could not pay because he didn't meet him. So he was indebted to that cobbler, and that was bothering him a lot. So he was in that thoughts only. The next birth, he was born as a son of cobbler. And he cleared his doubt. Because it was going on in his mind. So this is what happens. And these are all examples for good thoughts. So when you have a good qualities, because our Atma, when it leaves the body, it goes in a subtle form, subtle body, with the subtle body, carrying the qualities what I possess in this birth. So if I have negative qualities, those negative qualities are also carried. So I am getting the same qualities in the next my birth. So I do bad karma, then again because of the effect of karma, I am getting the other birth. So it goes on like that. So the Atma should have only good thoughts. So when do you get good thoughts? Only when you are engaged in service to Bhagavan. When you do service to Bhagavan, you are doing service to humankind also. For example, when you visit temple, you visit temple to worship God, but at the same time you are buying flower, you are buying fruit, and you are doing. So the people who are selling that, those who are living on that, they are also benefited. So we are indirectly helping them. So that is also a kind of charity, good work. Though we are paying and getting the thing, but we are offering to Bhagavan. With that money, they are able to carry on their lives. So we do only good things. So that's the purpose of having temples. So with the temples serve the purpose of make the people do good karmas, because there are so many people, their livelihood depend on the temple. So the temple is just not for visiting or what shall I say, displaying our wealth or show off. Not for show off. It is we are doing some social contribution. That is, we help people, those who are depending on the temple. So when we visit temple, the people who are doing service in the temple, they don't get very good salary. So let us make some contribution, whatever we can. Let us do that too. In the present situation in Tamil Nadu, we should do. We should have concern for them in all temples, or we know how they are, what the condition of temples today. So because the temples were constructed by kings for good intention. So when we visit temple, we do good work, doing the dhanam. So we get only the good qualities. So, and we are in thoughts of Bhagavan. So naturally we do not have jealous, we do not take the revenge, and we do not harm others. So we are in good qualities. So the Atma is influenced with the only good qualities. So naturally what happens? The bad effects of karma are not at all there because we are doing good karma only. So when we are doing service to Bhagavan, all the bad effects of karma which we did in the earlier birth also wiped out. So this is what explained in the previous slokas, one of the previous slokas. So we should be always in doing service to Bhagavan, service to God. So these are all for good qualities. So if you take Ambai in Mahabharata, she wanted to take revenge on Bhishma because she thought he destroyed her life. So what happened? Till the last moment that was in her mind. So in the next birth she was born as Sikandi and she did it. So this is what happens. So the qualities are very, very, very important. That vasana, karma vasana. So the Atma should be dominated or should by only good qualities. So this is the lesson. This is a message we take from this. How we should be conscious of the qualities we possess and only the good qualities to influence Atma. Otherwise, we will continue the cycle of birth and death. But having taken a human form, our goal should be to reach moksha. So we will not have any more cycle of birth and death. So Bhagavan is showing us path only to get it, to make our goal true, to achieve our goal. So this sloka gives us message to face reality, because people we become scared of facing death, but that will happen one day or the other. But how to face it? Birth and death inevitable. It will, once birth takes place, death will also be there. But how to take place? So how to remember Bhagavan? So he is giving us all the advice. So how to remember him and what should we do at the time of death? Is it possible for us to remember him? He says, yes, it is possible. That is why when we are alive, when we are having good health conditions, you start doing that. Engage yourself in Bhagavad Kainkaryam, and think of him always in thoughts of Bhagavan, so that you will not have any bad qualities, and you will be, all your bad karma will be wiped out if you are in thoughts of Bhagavan, because you are doing only good actions, because that Antaryami is there within us. So he drives us to do good karma if you are aware of him. If you are not, then if we don't realize him, and we get attached to the material life, and we go to any extent to get the wealth. So this sloka gives us a very valuable message, that how to face life and how to develop good qualities and how to remain good even at the time of death. So one of the Sadgurus, he says, devotees will have either darshan of his master at the time of death, or his mind will be arrested when it rests on righteous ideas. How beautiful it is. So when we are thinking of Bhagavan, our breath comes to end. So there is no question, because Arjuna asked this question, how will I remember you at the time of death? Is it possible for us? Will my brain in good condition? If it is not, what will I do? So Bhagavan answered that here in this. And we have been seeing Pasurams by Alvars. And here one of the Pasurams by Periyalvar. He talks about death. What all said by Bhagavan in this sloka he is explaining here. This Pasuram is அங்கம் விட்டவை ஐந்தும் அகற்றி ஆவி மூக்கினில் சோதித்த பின்னை சங்கம் விற்றவர் கையை மறித்து பையவே தலை சாய்ப்பதன் முன்னம் வங்கம் விட்டு உலவும் கடற்பள்ளி மாயனை மதுசூதனை மார்பில் தங்க விட்டு வைத்து ஆவது ஓர் கர்மம் சாதிப்பார்க்கு என்றும் சாதிக்கலாமே. This is the Pasuram. So this Pasuram explains when we, that is, this is about at the time of death, what should we do? So before someone loses a sense of his eyes, ears, mouth, nose and touch, and before the breath ceases, and before he can no longer swallow the water given to him or her from a conch, and before the head sags to the side. And Alvar says there will be people around you and they keep their fingers near your nose and check whether you are alive or not. And once they find out that you are not alive, then they fold their hands and keep their head down and they start mourning. So here so he continues, if he thinks, that is, that soul thinks in his heart of Maya, Madhusudanan, who is lying on the Parkadal, on Adiseshan in Parkadal, with abundant water around him. He says there is nothing that he cannot achieve. So he will, whether he is a Kaivalyarthi or Aishwaryarthi or Bhagavallaparthi, whatever he wants to attain, he will attain because he thinks of God at the time of death. So it's beautifully explained by Periyalvar here. Periyalvar, it's a beautiful collection of Pasurams where he talks about what happens just before death, then how to face, how to remember him. So he says there will be lot of symptoms just before the Atma leaves the body. So he says typically we will not take food, and there's so many things, and how the phlegm gets collected in the chest and everything. So he says before that you know that you are deteriorating in your health. So you know, you will understand that something is going to happen. So before you lose your strength, before you lose all the power of organs, you start chanting his name, Iridi Kesha. Think of him. Then you will not be troubled by the messengers of Yama, because they will also come, and first the punishment will be faced by us. So he says nothing. You don't think of all that. Nothing will happen. You think of Bhagavan at the time. So this makes us face the life, accept the reality. So the spiritual path gives us that courage, and we don't get scared, because if we follow this, we are going to reach Bhagavan only. So it will not make you feel scared. So let's follow that and make our life peaceful and purposeful.